Nickel Boys has been touted masterful, staggeringly beautiful, and a cinematic experience like no other. Going in with all the buzz from Telluride and New York Film Festival, hearing of its first-person creative swings, the phenomenal performances, and deeply dark source material, Nickel Boys has piqued my interest, and I'm happy to report the hype is real. Nickel Boys follows Elwood Curtis as his college dreams are shattered when he's sentenced to Nickel Academy, a brutal reformatory in the Jim Crow South. He strikes up a friendship with Turner, a fellow black teen who shares fundamental tips for survival. Before we get into over 98% of you guys who watch these videos are subscribed, so if you don't want to miss out on more reviews, hit that button. Both always wasting any more time, let's get into it. And I have to start off by talking about the insanely ambitious creative swings that this film goes for. It's almost fully in the first person visually, and to me, at first when I heard that, I was like, this is totally going to be a gimmick. It's just going to feel weird the entire movie. And yes, it did feel weird and it felt eerie and it felt odd, but that is completely 110% the point. And by the time the final seconds of this movie were rolling, I kind of just understood that this movie couldn't have been told with as much impact if not for this insane creative decision. There's one point in the movie where you start switching perspectives, but it's still in the first person just of other characters, and that works super well within the story. I can confirm to you that it's not just a gimmick, and that was one of my biggest worries going into the film. And aside from it just being the main method to tell the story and us actually understanding Elwood's story, just the way that it's used in the overall story, the visual language, and how it aids the twist in of itself is just amazing. And on top of that, they also use so many real life artifacts that just shift this movie into another perspective that I just didn't really expect at all going in. And all of these super ambitious creative ideas come together to create one of the most haunting movies I've seen probably of the decade. There's one scene I'd say early second act of this film that I still haven't been able to stop thinking about even after a week of watching this movie. The most obvious comparison is to last year's Zone of Interest. It's calm but in a haunting way, but unlike Zone of Interest, you are truly in all of the torture in this film, which is what just amplifies all of the depression. These ideas of normality are expressed with such intensity that you just can't help but feel uncomfortable. And none of this eerie nature surrounding the film would work if not for the brilliant performances. Ethan Harris plays Elwood, and he is absolutely amazing. It's really weird to judge a performance where you're really only seeing the arms of this character, and of course it does switch angles from time to time. I felt like a lot of the dialogue felt unnatural because it was coming from behind the camera, but then the second that you switch perspectives and you actually see Elwood's character in front of you, everything just feels like it's super claustrophobic, and you're finally seeing the face that's going through all of this pain.
Whoa! That's it, Al. You're doing great.
What happened to that one kid I used to hang with all the time?
You don't remember?
Remember what?
Again, this just brings me back to all of the creative swings just lead to way more eeriness and just way more torturous aura around when you find out what these characters are truly going through. Brandon Willis plays Turner, who befriends Elwood at school, and I think that his performance is really interesting. I don't know if it's going to get many Oscar noms. I'll be talking about that in just a second here, but I think the performance that truly encapsulated me on a supporting actor level was Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor. She plays Elwood's grandmother, and man, she just kills it. She's arguably better than Ethan Harris as Elwood, and it's just because she is really the only character that we get to see this evolution in terms of spending enough time at each point in the film. Turner's character, we do get to see a lot of. Elwood, obviously, we get to see a lot of. And though Turner's overall situation feels more close to the viewer, I think watching Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor's evolution of her performance just makes you feel way more connected to her. As for my biggest flaw of the film, I don't even think it's really a flaw. It's something that they can't really get around just because of how much time this film really does need, and it just comes in with the overall pacing. This isn't a fast movie by any means. It doesn't try to be at all. It comes in at 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it does at times feel like it's 3 hours plus. But also, I say that in a purposeful way. I'm so glad about 98% of the things that I was seeing on screen. There's just so much dread in every shot, and the performances and these thematic ideas, they need time, and they're given time. But at the same time, all of it is just so dark that it feels like it's going on forever. It feels like you cannot escape the dread that this film is putting you through. And again, this does feel like Zone of Interest in that way, but these are just films that need time to get you into these ideas and the overall setting, characters, thematic. These all need time, and that's exactly what this movie does. It doesn't let any frame go to waste. Now, out of Telluride and New York Film Festival, this has gotten a lot of Oscar buzz, and I'm just getting into the Oscar nomination stuff, so I'd love to hear your guys' Oscar noms for Nickel Boys in the comments down below, but I could see this getting some pretty hefty nominations here. Best Picture I could see, just because I think there will be a lot of people rallying for this film, just because of the cultural impact of it and the story that it does decide to tell. Best Cinematography, I think it's just so ambitious in that category on a narrative and just flexing what they're able to do with the technology. I truly just think this is one of the best looking movies, and it also uses cinematography to the best of its ability out of most of the films I've seen this year.
What are you gonna do? It's now or never.
Hello.
And finally, I personally think it should get into Best Director just because of how much it is reaching for. I'm not necessarily saying that it reaches for the stars and is able to grab all of them, but it does make it a decent way up there, and I think we have to respect the ambitiousness of the filmmaking. And the final thing I want to talk about is just how the ending of the film left me. So much of this film is out of the ordinary filmmaking, but the end just truly brings everything together so well that I think even if people weren't messing with the movie for the first 2 hours, the final 20 minutes truly puts you in these characters' shoes, and then from different twists, character moments, the artifacts that they use, everything feels so meticulously calculated that you have no other option but to be just fully invested and locked in. Once it clicks, everything just goes out of the window and you just sit there kind of overcome by all of the dread. At the end of the day, I don't think Nickel Boys is for everyone. It is full of dread and depression, but on a creative level, it goes for so much. The filmmaker, the cast and crew behind this movie are telling a story in a way that I think was the best possible way to tell it. Overall, I'm gonna give Nickel Boys an 8.5 out of 10. If you've seen or want to check out this movie, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.